Welcome to the MYD Show. I am Kirsty Watermeyer and I'm delighted to be welcoming you to this edition of the show as we weigh in on such an important topic when talking tolerance. Tonight we're going to be discussing dementia as well as Alzheimer's, because there is a man in Namibia who has been working tirelessly to remove stigma and to create for a space where we are more tolerant and more understanding of what dementia and Alzheimer's really is. So I'm delighted to be welcoming now to studio Berrie Holtzhausen. It's wonderful to have you in studio, Berrie.
Thank you very much, Christine. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Such an important conversation, such an important topic. But before we get into what is Alzheimer's, what is dementia, and why it is that we should be concerned, let's talk about why it is that you started the association Alzheimer's Dementia Namibia. Tell us about your journey.
Well, I start this because I met someone living with dementia. Dementia is the umbrella term for all the signs and symptoms that one experiences when a disease starts to kill your brain, damage your brain permanently and progressively. And one of those diseases is Alzheimer's. There's about 97 other diseases, HIV/AIDS related and drug related and so forth. So I met this guy. So we opened up a normal old age home and caring for not the old age home like we know it in Namibia. It was a normal home and not an institute, caring for 13 people there. And I met this farmer, came to us, living with dementia caused by Alzheimer's. And his wife told me they one day drove down to the Kalahari and he drove past his gate of his farm and she asked him, where are you going to? He said, but I don't know where I am. He said, come on, how can't you know where you are? He said, no, really, I don't know where I am. And he stopped, he said, take over. And then she decided to take him back to Windhoek, the neurologist, and he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So he walked, when he came to us after 9 years, normally they can diagnose it only after you're already living 15 to 20 years with this. And it's a disease, it's not a part of aging. So when you walk up to a door, for instance, he can't recognize the door handle. What is this? He doesn't know how to open the door. And then his brain can't help him to turn around. So that's how I started with this. I said to myself, I need to understand this disease, how to help people living with this, how to care for them. And I love to travel as well. So my friend, he's got the lots up at Kunene waterfalls, Ipupa waterfalls, the one right at the falls, Koosverwy. And he invited me, he said, Berrie, come and visit me. And I decided one of my birthdays, said to my wife, that's where I want to be. And the 7th, my birthday was the 6th of October, and the 7th of October, he took me to a Himba village for the first time in my life. And he walked me through the village. It was the village of well-known Chief Kapika, the headman of the Himba people. He walked me through the village, explained to me all the different huts and the holy fire and the kraal for the cattle and the goats. And then a lady called out of one of the huts, screaming, shouting at us. And I asked him, why is he not approaching us? Why can't we meet her? And he said, no, don't worry about her. She's mad. She's bewitched. I said, what do you mean she's bewitched? Yeah, she's chained between the legs and to the pole of the hut for the last 20 years. I said, no, I can't believe this. But knowing dementia at that time, that the study of that was trained by the medical school of Utah's University of Tasmania to understand dementia and all the diseases involved in this, it jumps into my mind, but this can't be witchcraft. That she can't be bewitched or a witch. And I said to him, but of course I like to meet her. He said, but she's dangerous. No one touches her. No one goes near her. They put a food nearby and then they just with a stick push it into a hut. If there is food leftovers for the day, otherwise she goes without food. And maybe 250 milliliters water a day, because water is very scarce in that area. They don't have running water. They need to go to the Ipupa Falls or to some borehole. So, yeah, he sent a translator then with me. He asked permission. Kapika was not in the village, but his wives were there, and they said, "Oh, you could go to her, but remember, she's dangerous." Okay, it's fine. And he took me to her, and the only words he could say properly, because this is one of the signs of dementia, the part of your brain managing language and words is gone forever. So you're looking for words, you're thirsty, but you can't find a word, water, okay, please give me water, I'm thirsty, whatever. And the only words she could say properly in her language was, I need tobacco from Sesfontein. But she was extremely thin. You could see she was so hungry, so thirsty. But she was laughing while she's saying this and chained to the pole and just sitting like a little, how can I say, little meerkat in the doorway, but not right in the doorway, but because in the doorway of the hut was a fire burning, 24/7. I didn't know at that time why, but later on I heard the stories. So I asked my translator to translate for me. He said, "But sir, I can't translate what she's saying. She's talking nonsense." That's what people say also, people living with dementia, because they can't find the words, they can't use sentences and put it together properly. They tell stories from different eras, from different perspectives, so it doesn't make sense most of the times. But I could see that she's so hungry and so thirsty. And I said, okay, fine, and I went to my friend and I said, listen here, Koos, I can't leave here knowing that she's chained. I need to come back. Where's Kapika? Now he's not here, but I said to him, we need to negotiate it. We need to unchain her. We need to start caring for her. Because I know this disease. I'm sure this is dementia. I'm not a doctor. But all the signs was for me very common. So and 2 weeks later he phoned me, he said, okay, Kapika's back. And I went back. 900 kilometers, went back and we met Kapika under a tree, sitting like me and you under the tree, and explained who I am and what I'm doing, and said to him, but I want to help you. I don't think one can keep someone like this chained for so many years.
Yeah, and so after you'd removed the chains, she's been treated and she's living a normal life, Berrie?
Yeah. We first did that day when we negotiate unchaining and being cared for. He also said to me, she's dangerous, and he showed me a mark on his forehead. He said to me that one night, late at night, about 2 o'clock at night, there was a commotion in the village. Fireworks and shouting and goats and cattle, very restless. And when he got out of his hut, Ndjinaa was standing there. She managed to unchain her from the pole of the hut. Inside the hut was nothing. Not the skin of a cattle to sleep on, not a blanket. It was even a toilet inside it. That little small hut, this big, not very, very big. But he said she managed to unchain her from the pole of the hut, got out of the hut, and strangled 6 goats with her bare hands. The reason for this is being hungry, being thirsty, in a long-term memory that's still there. Smelling the goats, hearing the goats, the cattle, it reminds her of omhere, the traditional food, yogurt, and a reminder of meat. So she still knows this is food. This can help me with my thirst, but I don't know how. I can kill them, but and then she go to the holy fire and said, okay, fire, that goat means food, but I don't know how to manage this again, because this is another symptom of people living with dementia. They can't perform their normal daily activities anymore. They can't make a cup of tea. So then she put the kraal on fire. And then he came out and she grabbed a piece of wood, because you're the guy who chained me for so many years. And nearly killed him. She hit him over the head, and then he explained to me, that's why I'm saying she's dangerous. But I know why she did it, because I know the disease. She said, no, don't worry, I'm not afraid.
Incredible story, Barry. And we're going to take a very short break. We're going to be back just after this with some more information and some more learning about and hearing about what happened to Ndjinaa. Stay with us. Welcome back to the MYD Show. I'm Kirsty Watermere, and I'm sitting down to have a chat with Berrie Holtzhausen from Alzheimer, Dementia, Namibia. And we were just hearing before the break such an incredibly important story, heartbreaking, heart-wrenching to think of Ndjinaa being chained to a pole for 20 years because her community thought that she was mad and she was a witch. Meanwhile, she had a disease. Please continue with the story of Ndjinaa, Barry.
Yeah, you see in African cultures, witchcraft, the belief in witchcraft is very powerful and very common. And they're very afraid of witches because witches kill their family to get hold of their energy, their powers, so that they can keep on living. That's what I believe. So I organized then a young Yimba lady and young Zemba lady to come with me to our farm. We were on a farm near Otjiwarongo then at that time, caring for people living with dementia, and to train them there, to see for themselves, this is not witches, and the symptoms, and how to care for people who can't eat anymore, who can't use language to say, I've got pain, I'm thirsty, how do you understand them, and so on. So I trained them for 2 months. But how do you train people who can hardly read and write? So I said to myself, well, let's everyone, there's no Coca-Cola in Himba villages. You don't find Coca-Cola very often, but you find cell phones everywhere, hanging around their necks and so on. So they know cell phones, and I use the different apps on the cell phones to explain the different lobes of the brain and the different functions of different lobes and how it connected and what happened when you delete an app. When the disease delete brain cells, a part of your brain. And I took them back 2 months later. We unchained Ndjinaa. It was on the 12th of the 12th, 2012. I didn't plan it like that. The night sleeping in the bungalow at the Ipupo Falls, I was thinking, but tomorrow is the 12th of December. So we unchained her, and everyone came from villages to see this unchaining of a witch who can fly at night. In their beliefs and what's going to happen with this white man. And they were sitting under the tree and waiting, and we put up between two mupani trees a plastic sheet, and I brought with me a lot of water, and you remember now she had 250 milliliters water a day if she was lucky. Now we're bathing her in 20 liters of water. We bath her first, clean her 20 years, no water over her body. And we dressed her nicely. She couldn't walk up straight. You know, you can think for yourself sitting like this in a hut for 20 years. So I like to stand up now. Can I do that? Can I stand up? She was walking like this. And after we unchained her, bathed her, dressed her nicely and clean, she came out behind that plastic sheet, up straight.
Incredible. And where is she now, Barry? What is happening?
It took us 16 months to organize a piece of ground where we could build a village for herself. And we built a Himba village for her with 5 huts. She's the chief and commander then of the village. And this lady's care for her. She can collect wood, but she can't make the fire, for instance. And she was never aggressive again.
And is she being treated with medication, or how is she being treated?
No, we don't believe in medication.
Okay.
It's wrong to say there's medication. We do believe in medication. We think that the so-called dementia medication
it's not helping.
It's not helping.
So how are we treating people with dementia?
You're treating people with dignity, with love. And that's what Kapika asked me that day. Are you a doctor? He asked me. I said, no. Are you going to use medication? He said, no. Are you a witch doctor? I said, no. Now, how are you going to treat her? I said, with love. And that night, 2 years later, they told me, his wife told me, we asked our husband, now how is this white man going to treat her? With medication? No. Yeah, with love. What is that? With love? What do you mean with love? So yeah, I train them to understand the body language and stuff. Make sure that she's got enough to drink, enough to eat, sleep well, walk with her in the veld. See the goats, listen to the goats, touch the donkeys and the cattle, you know. Everything that she was used to and couldn't do in 20 years. Listen to her songs that she's singing and sing with her, the songs about the color of the cattle and so on. So we cared for 5.5 years. We drilled a borehole, we put up a 10,000 liter tank for her. Imagine she's got 250 milliliter now, she's got 10,000 liters, and the same Kapika, his cattle and his goats is drinking from her well, from her crib. And also visiting her, because she was now the provider, because we made sure there's enough food and so on. But after 5.5 years, I noticed that they're not good for her anymore. They start stealing her clothes, her food, and I could see when I visited in the first 3 years, I went every 6 weeks up to the Ipupa Falls to see that she's all right. And I could see that she's afraid. She's hiding behind the hut like a little scare child. I think they raped her. That's my thinking. I can't prove this. Then I said to my friend, no, I'm taking it out of a culture. I don't believe this. I believe that everyone needs to be cared for in their own family groups, in their own culture. But I said, no, I'm taking down to Swakopmund, to our place. And I did just that. And she's now 6 weeks with us. She's great. She's dancing. I can show you later on a video clip of Ndjinaa dancing. So yeah, she's now with us in Swakopmund.
And she's become what inspired you to start an organization that's looking after people with similar symptoms. Tell us about your organization, Berrie.
Just before that, I already started this. It was because of that farmer, but she inspired me to go into the rural areas and find witches. Because I said to myself, if there's one, there's many more. So I start traveling Kavango, Zambezi, over Vamuland, and I met a lot of witches, so-called witches, but they all are people living with dementia. All these behavioral symptoms, these hallucinations, late at the day we call it syndrome. They get anxious and walking up and down and going somewhere and can't find their way back. And at night they talk to people that's not there anymore. Long ago, they know if they were really with them, living in different realities. And that makes people very scared.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about those symptoms. So these are the type of symptoms that you're dealing with when dealing with dementia. Is a person that's confused and they don't understand what's happening because there's certain parts of their brain that are not functioning because they're diseased, correct?
Yeah, because it's gone, forever gone. Yeah, you do get 5 domains that we are looking at. The domain of it is physical. They need to wear diapers. They're incontinent, and they start the involuntary muscles. There's no signal between the brain and the muscles anymore, so they can't swallow their food. And then some of the food land up in the lungs. The great Nelson Mandela died because of dementia. Did you know that? No, I didn't. And think back. The last 5 years of life, you never saw him on television. Never. You heard his voice. And he was in and out of hospital. Why? Of pneumonia. What is pneumonia? It's can't swallow anymore, and food and water and coffee and whatever lands up in your lungs here, and you develop pneumonia. Then they give antibiotics, and so the process is going on till you're dead. So it's a terminal illness, the only one in the whole world. Then other domains that we are looking at is the cognitive. They can't plan. They don't have insight in problems. They like small children. You know, they can walk over the street without looking left and right. Don't know the dangers about just do this. You know. And then what we call BPSDs, behavioral and psychological symptoms of dementia, so-called aggression. They say people living with dementia because of Alzheimer's, whatever, they're very aggressive. That is a lie. It is the international language of people living with dementia. If you tie me to a tree, I promise you, Christy, I will hit you if I see you again. If you come to me and I'm very thirsty, you know, and I've got arthritis, for instance, you grab me at my shoulder and you just pluck me from the chair. Tomorrow, when you approach me, I will hit you. So it's the language.
Cause and effect. And
yeah, it's cause and effect, because they don't have the words to explain what's wrong with them anymore. So you need to have a passion. You need to love them. You need to know their life history, because they do time traveling. They go back into realities far away. For instance, their senses can trigger this. Smelling, for instance, coffee. It will trigger a time in their life when they went often to coffee shops with their loved one. And for them, it's reality. They're in that coffee shop. They can see the coffee shop. They can see the coffee. It's amazing how the brain is working. So if you don't know this, you can't care for them. You think they're just stupid, they're mad, and all this stigma and discrimination.
yeah, exactly, and discrimination. We're going to take a very short break. We'll be back after this as we discuss further how it is that we care for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the MYD Show. I'm Kirsty Waterman, and I'm sitting down having a chat with Berrie Holtzhausen. So Berrie, just before the break, we were talking about some of the symptoms. Let's talk briefly about how do we care for people living with Alzheimer's and dementia, and how people can get in touch with you to support the work that you're doing.
In the first place, I think you need to understand the disease. You need to understand the brain. The functions of the different lobes and what's happening when a lobe, brain cells is dying in a certain lobe. For instance, recognition. We think in pictures. I never met you before. I met you this morning. I've seen you. I Googled you. I've seen you on the internet. But now, if I see you in the street, I hope I will remember you. Why? Because your picture is now in my brain, and your name in another part of my brain. When the dementia, Alzheimer's kills that part of the brain, destroys that. It's gone forever. I'll meet you again, you'll say your name and say, no, I never met you. So if you, for instance, walk into their rooms in the morning, even if you are married, if I was married to you for 30 years, and I walked into your room, you might say that morning, who are you? What are you doing in my room? Because my picture is gone. I'm not your husband. And think for yourself, someone walked into your room, wake you up, and you don't know this guy.
That's scary.
It's so scary, and then tell you to undress. You will get out of your mind. So there's a lot of stuff involved in this. Knowing the person, knowing the life history, introduce you every time when you're working with them. Let your body language talk to them. If you smile to them and you don't mean it, they know it. Because they are excellent people reading body language. Because they can't use words anymore. Not everyone, but most of them. So they connect back to what we're supposed to do.
Wow,
and
ultimately love. Love is the way.
Love is love and a passion. You can't do it just for the job. Just to earn money. Then I always say to my staff, if you feel you can't do this anymore, please come and talk to me. But we are a family, and it's not just a job.
Exactly. So tell us quickly before we run out of time, how do people get in touch with you to support the important work that you're doing, Berrie?
Well, we're all over the internet. We are called Alzheimer Dementia Namibia. We've got a Facebook page. My cell phone number is 081-2833-983. I'm on WhatsApp. We've got a Dementia WhatsApp group where I post weekly information about this disease, what's happening in Namibia, what's happening in our family, and so on. And we've got a website. They can just Google Alzheimer Dementia. They'll find my blog with all the stories, different people, and our website. And we've got a place in Swakopmund, at the Swakop River plots, where we care for people living with dementia.
Fantastic. And I've had a look at your website and blog and etc., and it's really informative. There's some fantastic information, so it's a great starting point. But the point is, let's love one another, let's care, and let's learn how to understand so that we can support one another.
And let's get rid of the stigma and the discrimination. Your brain is an organ. It's not a place for demons and devils to live in.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for coming to share your wisdom with us, and thank you so much for the very important work that you're doing.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's been wonderful. And it's been wonderful being in your company once more. From me, Kirsty Watermeyer, until we meet again, remember it begins and it ends with love, because love is what you are.